Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's edition of Viewpoint on DBS Television. My name is Mange Venasius. In today's edition of the program, we are receiving two gentlemen to share their views on what they think about current issues affecting our society. And as you know, the main issue that we have in our society these days, we have nothing other than the coronavirus pandemic. And in today's edition, we are receiving Mr. Tanko Blasius. He is a teacher. Good evening, sir, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Good evening, and the pleasure is mine for being in the studio.
We are grateful you are ready to share with us what you think. Besides Tanko Blasius, we have Mr. Tikum Silvanus. He is a businessman. Good evening, Mr. Tikum, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Good evening. The pleasure is mine, and good evening, fellow viewers.
As you rightly know, the Viewpoint is divided into two parts. We have the first part that is consecrated to the yes or no answer session, and the second part will come back with the debate. So we begin right away with the first part with the yes and or no. After this jingle. We take the first question, which says, is the rapid rate of COVID-19 infections in Cameroon having any link with government softening barrier measures? I begin with you, Mr. Tanko Blasius.
I don't think so.
He says no. Mr. Tikum Silvanus?
I think so.
He says yes. We take the second question. Is the increase in infection rate a reflection of the ineffective nature of barrier measures put in place by the government? Mr. Tanko?
I think so.
He says yes. Mr. Tikum?
I think so.
They share the same view. We take the third question. With the rapid increase in number of infections, is it advisable for schools to resume in Cameroon? I begin with you, Mr. Tikum.
Yes, I think so.
Mr. Tikum says schools should resume. And Mr. Tanko, what is your view?
I feel that schools should be put on a hold for some time.
Mr. Tanko feels that no, schools should not resume. Thus are their view. We take the fourth question, which is the UN official praises to African COVID-19 response genuine, Mr. Tanko?
It is genuine.
He says it is genuine. And Mr. Tikum?
Yes, it is genuine.
He says it is genuine. This is what they think. And we would be back in the second part of the program with the debate after this jingle. If you're just joining us, you're watching Viewpoint on DBS Television, and we go into what these gentlemen think about these issues. We were saying, taking the first question, is the rate of COVID-19 infection in Cameroon having any link with government softening barrier measures? Mr. Tanko Blasius, you think it is? Yes. What is your view?
I think that it does not have any link.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being that, looking at it carefully, when a disease comes and it is spreading at the rate at which it is spreading right now,
mm-hmm.
instead of tightening the measures to keep people back at home so that so that at times we take those who are infected,
mm-hmm.
get them together, maybe try to quarantine them and treat them so that we get a good results before softening measures. The measures just open. Like the other day in Douala here, was as if Cameroon won a match, so I don't see it. I don't look at it that way.
So the rapid rate of COVID-19 infection, it has, according to you, it has no link.
It has just no link
with government softening
measures.
Mr. Tikum Silvanus, you are of the opposing view.
Yes, I see in the opposing view that with the government softening the measures, it has helped to the widespread of the COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
I take, for instance, I'll take us to flashback. When this COVID-19 outbreak came out, there was a little bit reluctant by the government to put in measure. But when it saw the devastating effects of the COVID-19, they now came in with measures which everybody was conscious that there is something very dangerous occurring in the society. And so people were back in their homes. People were conscious to put on their masks. People were conscious to wash their hands. People were conscious to keep social distances as stipulated by the government. But when the government softened it by saying that some of those rules that were stated should be lifted, some people, a majority of people, think that the COVID-19 is over. And so you find them helping to spread. You find the rapid increase of the number of people affected today in our society.
Actually, talking about the rapid increase of the number of those affected in our society, just last week Wednesday, Cameroon recorded the highest rate of infection by having 514 people who were tested positive. And as of this morning, Cameroon is already at 4,890 cases of infected persons, with 1,865 recoveries and 165 deaths. And we are asking the question, we take the second question, Mr. Tanko Blasius, we are saying, is the increase in infection rate a reflection of the ineffective nature of barrier measures put in place by the government? You think so, that it does?
Very true. I think so. The reason is because once you put in a measure, it's just like you have children in the house and you take care of them. If you put a barrier measures that children should not go beyond certain level, like going towards staircases, because they can roll off. And then now, at a certain moment, the child has not yet grown to the mature level or to be conscious of it, and you take off that barrier, the child will obviously stumble and fall down. Then when the child falls down, you, the parent, will begin to cry because you did not take adequate measures to take care of the child. Sensitize the child, tell the child that this is good, this is bad, make the child understand the intricacies of going towards the staircase. After that, you can now free the child. The child will know that the staircase is dangerous.
But Mr. Tanko, we feel that government was actually in this sensitization phase, telling Cameroonians to regularly wash their hands, wear face masks, and keeping the social distancing.
The sensitization phase, let me tell you, was not enough, because you cannot send the military to the field to be harassing people to be wearing masks. What we need is not force. What we need is to get into people's minds and make them reason and reason in the right direction. Because those military men who go on harassing people to wear masks and so on, do they wear their own? No. They hold you, they get money from you, telling you that this is because that's the fight for not wearing masks. Now I can tell you that the wearing of masks is the fear of the military and not the fear of COVID-19 in Cameroon. That's my own view.
So according to you, it is because the measures put in place are ineffective.
They are ineffective because what we need is that we we sensitize people. In most countries, let me call the case of Rwanda, for example, that I've been following their news on a daily basis. They discovered that Paul Kagame have decided to employ psychologists to look into them and to look at ways in which to prop the people to have a mind that works towards the corona issue. Because one thing that happens is just that it's difficult for you every morning when you get up, you brush your teeth, you wash your face before you go out. Okay, if somebody comes and tells you that when you get up in the morning, don't brush your teeth, don't wash your face, just go out like that, can you do it?
I don't think so.
It's actually difficult. So the person who have to succeed in that is somebody who will come, really prop you, get into your mind to know that this time around it's good that you should not be washing your face, you should not do this. So that's the way I look at it, because it's an African attitude that we have grown into it, and we have not been used to always washing hands. For example, you discover that, like in schools, the way we are, you discover that a child will go to the toilet. He will not even, you will struggling that, please come back and wash your hands, come back and wash your hands. The child will come back, just pour water on the hands. He doesn't care whether he doesn't look whether as he went to the toilet, he has carried some excrements on the fingernails or so and so on. He goes to that you begin to instill that discipline.
Mr. Tanko, is the problem the uncivic nature of Cameroonians or the ineffective measures that government put in place?
Both of them are the problem.
Okay.
Because the first thing is that the government should have looked for a way to prop the people to reason in line with it first. Then secondly, the people are too uncivic.
The people are not I mean, they are not responsive.
They don't look at it. Because for me, I believe if you believe that there is COVID-19 and you keep the measures good and fine, it's just like believing in God. If I believe in God today, and that tomorrow when I die, I discover that there's no God, I have nothing to lose. But if I don't believe in God, tomorrow I die, and it happens that there is judgment, I have a whole world to lose. That's how COVID-19 is.
Okay, I like your idea, but then let's take Mr. Tikum Silvanos, who shares the same opinion. He thinks that the increase in infection rates is a reflection of the ineffective nature of barrier measures put in place by government. Mr. Tikum.
Yes, I buy with that. If you look, the measures that were put in by the government, a scientific method was not used to implement those measures.
Mm-hmm.
That is why we can say to an extent there's some sort of gambling. You find out that, like my brother Riley said there, that the military are on the field.
The police officers.
The police officers,
Mm-hmm.
they harass people that you are not putting on your face mask, whereas they are not putting their own. At the same time, they harass those people who have been in their homes for several months, for several days, without food to eat, and extort money from them. And you find out that they intimidate the population instead of making the population to be reasonable enough that this thing is a reality. It is good for them to preserve their lives. It is good for them to take the measures that the government has put in place. Unfortunately, they are now afraid of the military, because the 1,000 that they should have buy food to feed the family in the house, perhaps they move without a face mask and they are being caught by the military. They will remove that 1,000 and give to save their lives, but not saving their life from the COVID-19, which is destroying the society. So we see that there is a big problem there.
So according to you, is the problem on the part of the population that has refused to accept the fact that there is coronavirus and instead wearing the face mask because of being afraid of the military, or because the measures put the idea of wearing face mask is not effective? That's why our problem here is trying to link it with the effective nature of the government barrier measures.
It is on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It is on both sides. The government shared about 60%, while the civilians have 40%,
Mm-hmm.
because the government has come out with measures in order to protect its population. But unfortunately, those measures are being used by force. They are being used without any technical method of how to go about. And the people's senses are not related to what they should have been afraid,
Mm-hmm.
but they are now afraid of the military.
Mm-hmm.
They are now afraid of the military and the consequences that will come from the military. They are not even afraid of the COVID-19 and the death that they will face if they are being caught by the COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. When we look at other, we remain in this question, Mr. Tikumu, we look at other countries like China, Britain, US, Japan. The idea of wearing face mask, washing of hands, social distancing, they are not different from what we have in Cameroon.
Yes.
But we have we are saying as of this morning, Cameroon is already counting 4,890 cases in Cameroon, just like other African countries which are not up to. We are still talking of countries in East Africa. There are about 100, 200 cases.
Yeah.
Where is the problem in Cameroon? Why is it that the case in Cameroon is increasing high? Is it that the measures are ineffective, or that the measures are not well followed? Where is the problem in
Actually, the measures are ineffective.
Mm-hmm.
I will take you for instance. If you look, those who are attacked by COVID-19, they have very weak immune system. Take the government has asked people to stay in their homes. People were not going to the market, business was not going, and there's no food for people to eat. Family are dying of starvation. Remember, when you are hungry, when you are in starvation, your immune system becomes weak.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the possibility that if you are attacked or you pass by any means in contact with that, with the symptoms of COVID-19, they could be multiplied.
Mm-hmm.
And you find that the Cameroon, the population, the number of people in Cameroon are increasing every day because the people are dying in starvation. You cannot expect that the government will tell teachers, stay back at home, no school, and they are not being paid. Take for the private sector,
Mm-hmm.
and they are not being paid. How do you expect those teachers who rely on teaching to feed themselves, feed their families, and other relatives to do?
Okay.
It means if that teacher alone dies, or if that teacher alone is not eligible enough to provide to them, think of the number of people that will follow him behind because of the weakness of no means.
Okay, are we saying that these barrier measures, they do not come along with accompanying measures, like you ask them to stay at home, give them food to eat so that they remain at home? Is that
really?
Okay,
they did not come with accompanying measures. They were just being given like that. And the people are suffering the consequences that are coming because of those measures.
Okay.
Yes. And COVID-19 too is taking its own part. If you even look COVID-19 and the starvation and the misery that people are going to, you might even give COVID-19, let's say 50% and starvation taking 50%. Now, the problem is escalating because accompanying measures were not attached to the rules that the government gave.
Okay, that is what he thinks. We take the third question, and the third question talks about education. We have a teacher and we have a businessman. And the third question, I will remain with you, Mr. Tikum. You say we are asking whether the rapid increase in number of infections, is it advisable for schools to resume in Cameroon? I will have to remind you, our viewers, that when Cameroon had about 5 cases, that was around the 17th of March, schools were suspended, churches were suspended, and we went into confinement. Now, Cameroon is talking about 4,890 cases as of this morning, and schools are programmed to resume on the 1st of June. We are asking if it is advisable with this rapid cases of infection in Cameroon. Is it advisable for schools to resume in Cameroon? And Mr. Tikum Silvanus says he thinks so. What is your point of view?
Yes, I think that schools should reopen because the government for stage 1 has already put in rules that could help curb the COVID-19 spread. The government should re-strategize and give some attachment to those rules. I can say the government should give some assistance, provide face mask to children who are going to school, provide sanitizers free of charge, provide why not food for children who will not be able to have food in their homes to eat. Share food for free such that the children go to school, because if you look at the effect that will come from a society that is highly illiterate, it is dangerous. Take for example now, in our society, in our towns, in our cities, the children are careless now. They are moving tete-a-skete. They don't even know their left, know their right. They don't even know what to do. And if it is possible that crime wave will be increased, prostitution is going to increase, stealing is going to increase, and our society will not be a safe place for us to go. So it is better that our children go back to school such that they could be educated on the virtue to live.
Okay, Mr. Tikum, just talking about crime wave and asking children to go back to school, we're just reminding our viewers that only the examination class students are going back to school. The other intermediary classes would not be allowed to go back to school. And given the way our classes, do you think that if we go back to school with what we have, would it really be possible to respect all the measures that are being asked by the government?
I think that before the government takes a decision that the examination class should go back to school, they have come out with some rules, some measures which are going to aid the going to school of the examination students, pupils, and others. Because with the absence of other classes not being in school, I think there will be enough space whereby the students will be spread in various classes and invigilators or teachers to take care of them. And so that is going to help maintain the social distances of 1 meter apart. It is going to help the children to study and even make use of the school fees they have paid, the examination they have registered, because it is not really good to keep the academic year blank.
Thank you, Mr. Tikum. He is speaking as a parent, surely, and as a business person. Paradoxically, we have a teacher here who thinks otherwise. Mr. Tanko Blasius, I think that it is not advisable for schools to go back.
Yeah, it's not advisable for schools to go back. Often, looking at it carefully, our country is a country that lives from hand to mouth. I'm sorry to say that, but
that's the reality.
The reality. Even the government does not have any bank of anything. The bank of money is not even the talk less of the bank for food. So when we are looking at it, we should look at it very carefully. Look like in South Africa, where Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, he took out food from food bank and was giving to the people who came and were taking food. He gave food to them and told them to go back and stay back at home. That was a good measure. But now, with our children, we know what our children are. They will come out, they will not respect the distance of 1 meter. They like to play in clusters. And you don't know from which house or from which vicinity each child is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
It was said that, yes, 24 students per class for the examination classes. Let me bet you, after you as a teacher, let's say now I've been teaching 150 students per class. It means that I have to deliver one lesson 6 times. Do you know what it means? It means that I'm going, if instead of moving and delivering that lesson, I'll deliver it 6 times. Either the students with which I start with gain more knowledge, or the ones with which I end with gain more knowledge than the other. That's why in schools you discover that when they have, like, pedagogically speaking, at times when you do something, as you are teaching and changing. You are teaching and changing. That's what makes the teaching profession a beautiful profession. But now, if you are teaching and you say that now you are only teaching on one thing, you are not researching, you are not changing your notes, you discover that it becomes too boring. Because it will be boring. At times, you discover that the students, one thing too is that we have teachers, but in schools, we don't put any type of teacher to teach an examination class.
That is where I wanted to ask. Mr. Tikum was talking of reducing students into 24 per class, and I wanted to find out, is it any teacher who teaches, we can just take any teacher and send to an examination class?
Let's take, for example, there are more schools in Cameroon whereby the parents pay PTA fee for teachers to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
So now, imagine that parents pay PTA fees so that they get maybe A-level holders to come and be teaching the first cycle,
mm-hmm.
maybe
from 2, 3.
2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, it happens that maybe they don't have the trained teachers, and they are maybe borrowing from all those teachers. Okay, imagine that somebody who is not trained and is teaching now for this long on maybe a reduced salary, because I am not sure that these parents will be able to pay. That's during this time you discover that the hardships have increased, because you discover that anybody you see who has been a teacher in the private sector, even in the government, is crying because things are not the same and will never be the same again.
That's what we are praying against. We hope that with this.
I want to add something there.
Yes, please.
You talk of teachers, some of the teachers not being trained, and not all the teachers are not supposed to teach the examination class. I think education is something that, let's say for the proprietors, there is an in-service retraining teachers, whether you are coming from the training school or you are coming from which you are having a degree,
or you are coming from a faculty.
Once you enter in a school where the proprietor knows what he or she is doing, they are supposed to train you, because anything can happen. At any time, you can be changed a class. You can be changed to teach another class, believing that you are a master on that field. If we say that some teachers are not supposed to enter in examination class, then we are talking of inefficiency of some of those teachers, which is caused by the proprietor. Therefore, you, the proprietor, are supposed to take the responsibility, employ teachers, and give them the knowledge that they desire, such that they can meet up some standard when times comes like this.
Okay. Yes,
my brother, it seems as if you are coming from space.
Yes.
This is Cameroon.
Okay.
We know what Cameroon
But we
is.
need to embrace
Cameroon. What I'm saying, I'm talking from the reality. I'm on the field as a teacher.
Yes.
I'm on the field like a teacher, and I know what it means. Do you know that when they say that they should send teachers on on some refresher courses, do you know that some principals say that no, we cannot send money, that the school does not have money
to let teachers go? Yes.
Do you know that?
Okay, and we must remind our viewers here that we are talking about 2 sectors of education.
Yes.
At the primary level, it may be possible for a class 3 teacher to go to class and teach. And from the secondary school, I don't know, like he cited an example of PTA teachers. Can we just take any PTA teacher and send to Form 5 and Up 6 to teach an examination class? That's where, take for example, a chemistry teacher who was teaching Form 1 and Form 2. I think he can sail at that point. But ask him to teach that chemistry and carry out practical in Upper 6. Would it be possible?
Cannot be possible.
So according to your view, you think that schools should at least go on a hold for now?
From my own point of view, I feel that schools should go on a hold. Let's focus on what is causing schools not to go,
which is the virus.
Mm-hmm. Because the moment we force that schools should go, you don't go if you have a skin disease. Mm-hmm. You don't go to be treating the skin disease without knowing the cause of the skin disease. Mm-hmm. You go right in, you cure it from within so that the skin can be healed. Because if you go on rubbing pomade thinking that you cure the skin disease, meanwhile right deep in you the germ is in you. Mm-hmm. You have done nothing.
Okay, gentlemen, our time is up. Let's look at it from the point of looking at the teacher.
Yeah.
The health of the teacher at this time too, is it at risk? I take from the businessman first. Mr. Tikum, what do you think?
Yes, the health of the teacher is really at risk because if you look at the private sector, most of the teachers have lost their job. They stay at home. They don't even. Some of them were depending only on teaching. They had no plan B, and so they are suffering now. Some of them don't even have money to pay their house rent. Some they don't even have food to put on their table. Life is becoming miserable because of the outbreak of this COVID-19. Mm-hmm. And we really see that if school reopen, it's going to give an opportunity for some of these teachers to regain their jobs and the proprietors bounce back to life, and the proprietors will pay them, because some proprietors are taking pretext that the outbreak of COVID-19 has caused them they will not pay teachers, especially those in the private sector.
Okay.
They will not pay teachers because they have not paid school fee, whereas we know here in Douala and many towns in Cameroon that before the third semester, all the school fees
would have been
collected.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tikum. Mr. Tanko Blasius, we are rounding up. What would be your last words if we are going out? Maybe you are speaking to your colleague teachers.
Yeah, I tell my colleague teachers, like I am here, I'm working on a pilot program. We are working on a pilot program, which is we are going to be doing it, teaching online.
Okay.
And the pilot program we have entitled 10 students per teacher. In such a way that we have begun, but with the science subjects, we don't know how the arts will commence. But we do it 10 students per teacher.
Okay.
Meaning that you have to pay a minimum per course, and we take at least 2 hours every week, so that at least the students will not stay at home having nothing to do. So that if you can take 2 hours in the morning, you wait, you maybe take 2 hours in the afternoon, you wait, it will be okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tanko Blasius, for accepting to talk to us on this edition of Viewpoint this evening.
No, I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I also want to wish my Muslim brothers a Barka de Salah, which passed yesterday.
Actually, and they are still celebrating.
Yeah, they are still celebrating.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Tikum, for accepting to talk to us this evening.
The pleasure is mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this edition of Viewpoint. Tomorrow we will be available again to share our views with what Cameroonians will be thinking about current issues. Keep watching programs here on DBS television. Hoping to meet you again tomorrow. We'll be available for what the world would have been thinking. Until then, goodbye. Have a blessed evening.